20 of the most infamous, violent criminals in American history. Their crimes, capture and punishment. Each of their stories is a grim reminder of humanity's darker side, and the crimes they committed sent shivers through the nation. Their acts, their downfalls, and their punishments remain etched in the annals of American crime. 1. Ted Bundy, the Charismatic Killer. Ted Bundy lured young women to their deaths with charm and wit. Between 1974 and 1978, he confessed to killing over 30 women, often luring them by pretending to need help or posing as a law enforcement officer. Bundy's first arrest came in 1975 for a failed kidnapping. Escaping custody twice, he was finally apprehended in 1978 after a massive nationwide manhunt. Sentenced to death in Florida, Bundy was executed in the electric chair in 1989. His last words were eerily calm, and his crimes still chill those who study them. 2. Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee Cannibal. Between 1978 and 1991, Dahmer murdered and dismembered 17 men and boys, indulging in necrophilia and cannibalism. He preserved body parts as gruesome trophies. He was caught in 1991 when a potential victim escaped and flagged down police. The discovery of body parts in Dahmer's apartment left seasoned officers in shock. Dahmer was sentenced to 15 life terms in prison, but was killed by a fellow inmate in 1994. His legacy remains one of depravity and horror. 3. John Wayne Gacy, the Killer Clown. Gacy raped and murdered at least 33 young men and boys in the 1970s, burying many of his victims under his home. His guise as a children's clown at parties earned him his nickname. Gacy's downfall began with a missing teenager linked to him. A search warrant led to the discovery of remains in his crawl space. Gacy was convicted in 1980 and executed by lethal injection in 1994. His smug defiance in interviews added to his infamy. 4. Albert Fish, the Gray Man. A deranged cannibal and child murderer, Fish targeted young victims in the 1920s and 1930s. He claimed to have killed and eaten several children, leaving letters describing the acts. He was arrested after taunting a victim's family with a detailed confession. His crimes were so disturbing that even hardened detectives were horrified. Fish was executed in the electric chair in 1936. His chilling last words suggested he welcomed death. 5. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. Ramirez terrorized California in the 1980s with a series of home invasions, murders, and sexual assaults, leaving satanic symbols at some crime scenes. He was caught in 1985 when a mob of angry citizens recognized him from a police sketch and restrained him until authorities arrived. Ramirez received 19 death sentences but died of cancer in 2013 while on death row. 6. Ed Gein, the Butcher of Plainfield. Gein inspired horror films like Psycho and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with his macabre collection of human remains, exhumed from graves or taken from his victims. Authorities discovered his gruesome trophies while investigating a missing woman in 1957. Gein was declared insane and confined to a mental institution until his death in 1984. 7. Aileen Wuornos, the female serial killer. Wuornos shot and killed 7 men between 1989 and 1990, claiming they had attempted to assault her. A series of mistakes led to her arrest in 1991, and her confessions sealed her fate. She was executed by lethal injection in 2002. Her life story remains a tragic tale of abuse, trauma, and violence. 8. David Berkowitz. The son of Sam. Berkowitz terrorized New York City in the 1970s, killing 6 and wounding others. He claimed a demonic dog commanded him to kill. Capture. A parking ticket near a crime scene led to his arrest. Berkowitz received 6 life sentences and remains incarcerated, now claiming to be a born-again Christian. 9. Gary Ridgway. The Green River Killer. Ridgway confessed to murdering 49 women, though authorities believe the number is higher. He targeted sex workers and runaways in Washington state. Advances in DNA technology linked him to his crimes in 2001. He received multiple life sentences without parole in exchange for his full confession. 10. Charles Manson. Cult leader of death. Manson orchestrated the infamous Tate LaBianca murders in 1969, carried out by his followers under his manipulation. His cult's activities unraveled after arrests for unrelated crimes. Manson received a death sentence, later commuted to life imprisonment. He died in 2017. 11. Henry Lee Lucas. The Drifter Killer. Lucas claimed to have killed hundreds, though only a handful were confirmed. His spree of murders, often with accomplice Otis Toole, spanned the 1970s and targeted random victims. Arrested for the murder of his mother, Lucas eventually confessed to other killings, weaving a tale of chaos and brutality. Sentenced to death, Lucas's sentence was commuted to life due to inconsistencies in his confessions. He died in prison in 2001. 12. Dennis Rader. The BTK Killer. Rader tormented Wichita, Kansas, for decades, binding, torturing, and killing 10 victims between 1974 and 1991, while taunting police and media with letters. His arrogance led to his downfall when he sent a floppy disk to the police in 2005, which they traced back to him. Rader received 10 life sentences without parole. His calm demeanor in court contrasted horrifyingly with the details of his crimes. 13. Earl Leonard Nelson. The Guerrilla Killer. During the 1920s, Nelson murdered over 20 women, often strangling them and leaving their bodies in grotesque positions. Authorities captured him after a witness recognized his face from widely distributed sketches. Nelson was hanged in 1928. His spree was one of the first to bring serial killers to national attention. 14. Edmund Kemper. The Co-ed Killer. Kemper targeted young women, killing and dismembering them in the 1970s. His horrifying acts extended to murdering his grandparents and his own mother. Kemper turned himself in, calmly confessing to his crimes and requesting the death penalty. Instead of death, he received 8 life sentences. Kemper remains in prison, known for his chilling intelligence and interviews. 15. Dean Call. The Candyman. Call, with accomplices David Brooks and Elmer Wayne Henley, tortured and murdered at least 28 teenage boys in Houston, Texas, during the early 1970s. Call was killed by Henley during an argument, leading to the discovery of their horrific crimes. Henley and Brooks were sentenced to life imprisonment for their roles. Call's death ended his reign of terror. 16. H. H. Holmes. The Murder Castle Architect. Holmes built a hotel in Chicago during the 1893 World's Fair, rigged with hidden chambers, gas chambers, and trapdoors to facilitate the murders of up to 200 victims. Arrested for insurance fraud, further investigation revealed the horrors of his murder castle. Holmes was hanged in 1896. His cold demeanor and meticulous planning make him one of America's earliest known serial killers. 17. Albert DeSalvo. The Boston Strangler. DeSalvo confessed to murdering 13 women in Boston during the early 1960s, strangling them in their homes. A botched burglary led to his arrest, and his confessions came during questioning. Sentenced to life in prison, DeSalvo was stabbed to death by another inmate in 1973. 18. Richard Kuklinski. The Iceman. A contract killer for the mob, Kuklinski claimed to have killed over 200 people, often freezing his victims to obscure the time of death. Undercover agents posing as potential clients recorded Kuklinski admitting to his crimes. He was sentenced to multiple life terms in 1988, dying in prison in 2006. 19. Samuel Little. America's most prolific killer. Little confessed to killing 93 women between 1970 and 2005, primarily targeting marginalized victims across the U.S. DNA evidence linked Little to several murders in 2012. He eventually confessed in chilling detail. Little received multiple life sentences and died in prison in 2020. 20. Andrew Cunanan. The Killer of Versace. Cunanan's killing spree in 1997 ended with the assassination of fashion designer Gianni Versace. His other murders were marked by personal vendettas and shocking brutality. Capture. After a nationwide manhunt, Cunanan was found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound on a houseboat in Miami. His suicide robbed the public of answers to his motivations, leaving an eerie void in the case. These stories remind us of the depths of human depravity, the efforts of law enforcement, and the resilience of survivors and victims' families.
Thanks for watching. Please support our channel. Please like, comment, and subscribe. New videos are uploaded regularly.